The governor made several stops on Cape Cod yesterday. We have details about one announcement that made tourism officials pretty excited, and find out how much money the town of Barnstable has in the coffers for future community preservation projects. Plus, we have details about a new survey launched this week that aims to find out what brings young people to Cape Cod and how to keep them here. These stories and more on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Wednesday, October 30th, 2013. I'm Sarah Mantle. State lawmakers are getting a good look at what Cape Cod is doing to promote arts and culture. Several members of the Joint Committee on Tourism, Arts and Cultural Development came to the Cape Monday. Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce CEO Wendy Northcross says the meeting was a productive one.
They've been going around the state doing their listening tour and just, learning more about what's so wonderful about our state in terms of curiosity for visitors and what some of the cultural assets are. And so finally it was Cape Cod's turn. They waited till after Columbus Day, and we had them in Sandwich, and then we had them in Hyannis. And they were very impressed, actually. They really had no idea of the quality of some of the offerings on Cape Cod. They had not heard of the Legacy Trail yet, and were certainly very impressed with the future plans of the JFK Hyannis Museum. So, yeah, it was all good, and it was an opportunity to kind of show our stuff.
Northcross says the committee members were impressed by what is being done right here on Cape Cod.
They really liked, for example, that we have two cultural districts, that we took them to the Glasstown district in Sandwich and the High Arts in Hyannis. They loved the Legacy Trail. They loved the fact that that was free and something that everybody could access. So things like that were kind of good practices that they might now share with other parts of the state, and that's fine. It's just, it really was interesting. They loved hearing the story of how we're using the arts to really bolster the renaissance of Hyannis.
The Arts and Tourism Committee members were not the only state lawmakers to head to the Cape this week. Governor Deval Patrick visited yesterday. Northcross says the governor had a few surprise announcements during his visit, including a $54,000 grant for the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce to pay for group travel marketing.
So it's people that come on the motor coaches, and you see a lot of them in the fall, and that's why we love them. It's a big block of business. It comes at a time of the year when we really could use that, fill up a lot of hotel rooms, fill up a lot of restaurant seats simultaneously. But it's also things like the Birders Festival that we hosted in Hyannis back in September. There's some seed money that goes to luring some, no pun intended with the birders here, but there's seed money that you need to lure some of these events here to help cover some of their startup costs that will then get paid back into the community 3, 4, or 5-fold because they stay in hotels and they spend money in the community. Things like the American Bus Association, they're going to have a board of directors retreat that's a very competitive thing across the country to lure that meeting, that high-end meeting here on the Cape, and now we'll be able to sort of compete with other great destinations because we have some seed money to do that with. So it's purely marketing money. It's we have to match it with travel money and staff time, but this is purely marketing money, and it's purely to get those larger groups here, both spring and fall. And we're ecstatic because we had put an ask in, though I thought, well, maybe we'll get like $10,000, but our entire ask was funded, so we're just thrilled. And that's primarily falls into Patty Lloyd's marketplaces, the business that she is assigned to bring to Cape Cod. So needless to say, Patty's having a good week as well.
During his visit, Patrick also announced plans for a new $36 million science building at Cape Cod Community College, and that seasonal train service from Boston to the Cape is here to stay. It's been 15 years since the town created a community preservation fund. Finance Director Mark Milne says the fund pays for a variety of projects.
The way it works is it was formerly known as the Land Bank. It started out as the Cape Cod Open Space Land Bank program, and then it morphed into the Community Preservation Fund a few years later. And it's funded from a surtax that's added on to the real estate tax bills. It's a 3% surtax. It's a 3% surtax in the amount of the real estate tax. that's added to every real estate tax bill. And it generates close to $3 million a year right now in surtaxes for the program. And it's used to finance community housing projects, historic preservation projects, and open space and recreation land projects. Those are the three categories, so that it is restricted funds as to what we can use it for.
Milton says the fund took in $3.9 million in fiscal year 13.
We spent close to $3.9 million, the biggest expenditure, of course, being the debt service on the bonds that were issued to finance a lot of the land acquisitions that were conducted early on in the program for things like the Danforth land. That was one of the biggest land acquisitions that we had under the program. And then there were several projects that were funded last year out of some of the reserves from the fund, and I think we had about 8 projects that were approved last fiscal year that totaled almost $1.2 million. And that included things like the West Parish Meeting House, Hyannis Public Library, the exterior of the school administration building here, the Cahoon Museum, some community housing on Sesame Street. So they all overall the program ended up still has a fund balance or a cash reserves that are available for funding other projects of about $5.7 million that got carried forward into this new fiscal year.
Milton says any money spent from the Community Preservation Fund is first approved by the town's Community Preservation Committee and then also Town Council. The Cape Cod Young Professionals are launching a new survey. The organization wants to learn what brings young people to Cape Cod and what will keep them here. This morning, Barnstable This Morning host Sarah Colvin chatted with Ann Van Vleck. She is the executive director of the Cape Cod Young Professionals, and they chatted about that survey.
We were finding with our mission of connecting, engaging, and advancing young professionals, there were still we were still having the question of what are we doing to keep young professionals here on the Cape. And, you know, you said exodus, we hear out-migration. You know, there's been a lot of focus and attention on the young professionals leaving. So we decided to take a leading role in trying to develop a solution and an action plan around the retention and recruitment of this age bracket. So yes, this was really started from some strategic planning that we did, conversations we were having at the end of 2011, and then we had an advocacy committee that was formed, and some real powerhouse people on that committee helped pull together this initiative and the Shape the Cape plan and project, and we announced it last June at our community breakfast and officially kicked it off in September, and we are just thrilled that the survey is live and in the field, and we're excited to be gathering this data. So that's really important. We want to move from sort of the anecdotal stories of why people are leaving to the data.
Absolutely. And really, you know, even in the beginning stages of this whole Shape the Cape initiative and the push to really recognize and hear the voices of young professionals, even just, you know, in my daily life here on the Cape, I've noticed that it seems that more of the young professionals are coming out of the woodwork, more attention is being paid. The conversation is definitely happening.
Right, absolutely. And that's what we want to do is sort of shift from that doom and gloom conversation, move away from sort of churning in the problem and the challenge, and shift to the solution. And what can we do as a region? I mean, this isn't something that can be tackled by our very small organization. This isn't something that one business can come in and tackle. This has to be a region-wide effort and something that everyone needs to participate in, and it's really important. So in terms of the survey itself, we are trying to gather the data from the 25 to 44-year-old range. And
if you are between the ages of 25 and 44, you can access the survey by visiting shapethecape.org. It takes just a few minutes to participate. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mannel.